ring if you're ready to care. Oh, let's talk power, let's talk speed. Hosted by the one and only WETOODEEP. Turn it up loud, feel the power in your seat. This is slapping me, yes, slapping me.
And what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Slap and Meat Community Show. I'm your host, WETOODEEP, and we are here with episode 333, which is just crazy to me, right? 333 episodes, and just crazy. Just to think about me starting this almost 4 years ago now. Not even wondering or thinking that I was going to make it 100 episodes before I really gave it up. But what happened was people started listening, audience started growing, made some friendships out of this, and it really pushed on. And so thank you all who've stuck with me. I'm just amazed that people actually want to hear me talk. Again, I say this a lot. I started this podcast just as a way to sort of get what I felt out, and really didn't care necessarily if anyone listened. When I first started this, and I was there was part of me that wanted to, I was starting to do like TikTok and was hoping maybe to become an influencer in that space. What happens though is when you have the opinions I do, you are oftentimes controversial. And when you have the demeanor that I do, where I don't mind hurting people's feelings, you don't really get famous doing that. You got to be a little bit fake to make it, and I like to keep it real, keep it raw, and keep it relevant. And so, anyway, that's not the point of this episode. We got some wrestling things to discuss. We are going to break down the insane weekend of the NFL playoffs as well. We got some questions, the never-ending question, I will say, that we have to actually address and talk about. And then we got a whole bunch of wonderful questions from our Discord. Just a sort of reminder to any new listener or listener who hasn't joined the Discord yet. What are you waiting for? Link is in the description. If for whatever reason it doesn't work, let me know. But it should work. It's a never-ending Discord link, or it's supposed to be. And so with that, as well, like, share, subscribe. If you're listening on audio, just go subscribe to the YouTube. You don't have to listen to it on the YouTube, but click on it. Leave us a thumbs up, and most importantly, just leave a comment. Doesn't have to be anything, too deep in the comments, but the more comments, the more subscriptions, the more thumbs up. It tells the algorithm this is wanted, and it pushes it out to other people who can hear the content. Excuse me. As well, if you're listening on the YouTube, I'll ask you to do the opposite. Go and follow and leave a 5-star review on a audio platform of your choosing. That way, again, that's sort of the algorithm for audio, specifically Spotify and Apple. One of the two, those are the two biggest ones. That's where you want to be, right? And so specifically on one of those two, follow or subscribe, leave a thumbs up or a comment or a review or whatever it is for the individual platform. And that is, what I'd ask for you to do for me there. Outside of that, I ain't got much for you. So what we're going to start this episode with, before we go in the ropes and talk about some actual wrestling things going on in the industry, I asked a couple weeks ago to make this a little bit more community-minded, to maybe give me a little bit more to talk about, for you guys to sort of suggest topics, right? And last week we started the hot take heat check, which Kara suggested, and it got some conversation going. We got another one of those to end the show. And to start the show from going now on, B-Master has suggested sort of a top 5 of the week. Now, I kind of used to did this with the Deep 5, where I would pick like some wrestling topics, and I'll be honest, I stopped doing it mostly because I just had a difficult time picking categories. But opening this up to like sports and wrestling, and we'll see. Maybe if you guys want, suggest a top 5 for the week. I'm open to suggestions for categories, and I'll definitely. But that's how we'll start the episode going forward. He left a great suggestion. 5, people I think should be pushed. Excuse me. And I have 5 people here that I do think WWE, and when I opened up to the question, I was like, okay, I'm going to open this up to the 3 main companies. But then I started looking through AEW and TNA's roster, and I was like, I don't know what's going on enough with individual wrestlers to know if they're being pushed or not. So then I said, well, what about WWE? And I already had 5 answers in my head anyway for WWE, so we stuck with that. So number 1, these aren't in any order, by the way, like greatest to least or anything. It's just 5 people. And so for me, we'll start with, and he's kind of already now at a beginning of a push, and it's Carmelo Hayes. And I know he has the U.S. title and just won that a couple weeks ago. Excuse me. My issue with how WWE is treating Carmelo Hayes is that this title, or the mid-card title that he now has, should have happened a year ago. Should have happened a year ago. And that way he could be built legitimately to be in the main card picture for 2026. Now, I think he's going to get a push this year. There's some good signs that probably point to that. But I wish, they should have done this earlier. And seeing that it's sort of early in the push, not quite certain how long this run's going to last, I'm still going to put him in this category of people I wish would be pushed. Next on the list is Ren Sinclair from NXT. I know she's sort of getting some shine because Kendall Gray is part of the Ren QCC, and so when Kendall Gray is getting pushed, but I think Ren should be pushed all in herself. I think it would be a really good story to have Kendall turn on Ren, because Kendall plays a better heel. To have Kendall turn on Ren, and Ren then go after the Evolve Women's title, where she can ultimately win the feud, win the title, and then I think she can have a nice little run with that title herself. And then that allows Kendall to go off. Now, the problem with that kind of story is it's very similar to Tatum and Izzy, and so I don't know if necessarily they do that. But Ren Sinclair is really good. I really hope they don't put her in that sort of Chelsea Green role where she's sort of just comic relief that's a little bit serious. Because Ren Sinclair can really wrestle. Like, she's really good. She has a look to herself that is, interesting. And I think she could definitely take a push and make the most of it. I just don't like that, she sort of played like second fiddle with the NQCC, and then that story, all the guys broke up, and so now she's running as, a backup to Kendall, and I just feel like she deserves to be, in a place where she's by herself and getting pushed that way. Because Ren Sinclair is actually really good. Third would be Kiana James. When she got called up, I was really, really, really excited. And then she ended up getting hurt, and then had, pretty certain, had breast enlargement surgery. And she had some recovery period. And when she came back, I was like, oh, interesting. Now they can push her. And then they just stick her with Julia, which hasn't done her any favors at all. And I just feel if you're just going to have her be like a valet, it's definitely not going to be to her favor. And I also feel like it's a waste of a call-up, which a lot of these call-ups seem to be here nowadays. Fourth on the list, I can't have a list like this and not have this person, Lyra Valkyria, right? There seemed to be like evidence with the Becky Lynch feud that maybe a push would happen, but now she's stuck in this Bayley BS, and I don't know. I don't see a push coming. She's again like a valet. I know she does some matches every now and then, but ultimately this is a woman who I genuinely believe with the right booking can get over. I don't know necessarily what the story is. I don't watch Raw. From everything that I've seen week in and week out about Raw is pretty hard to watch. So even if I did decide to get Netflix again, I just don't know if it would be worth watching. So I don't know. I feel like Lyra should definitely be pushed better. And then number 5 is probably going to be an out of nowhere name for some people. But Otis. Otis deserves a singles run. And I feel like the run that was coming for him got stopped when Gable got involved in the Wyatt Six stuff. And then Gable came out of that as El Grande Americano. And then he got hurt. And so everything with Otis sort of got put on pause. And so it's just really hard for me to sit here and be like, Otis already had, like, Otis deserves, but like, he's one of the better people. He served his time, did the comedy thing several times, Mandy Rose, this whole thing, and I think Otis is one of those dudes that if Otis was like 5 inches taller, he probably would be pushed. But I think that they view him as this sort of big guy who isn't big enough to be like Bronson Reed, right? Though they look the same size to me, like height-wise. I don't know off the top of my head, but like I feel like Otis is something that, or someone that deserves a push, not a world title push, but a mid-card push, who I think could be a major player in WWE if they put him in the right gimmick, right? And gave him the right booking. And ultimately, as I believe, everything comes down to booking. And so he should be one that should be pushed. So with that, we are now going to go in the ropes. And I got 4 things that I want to talk about in terms of news or something that I've seen regarding the wrestling world. Or something like that, right? And the first thing is, last Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, TNA debuted on the AMC channel. I recorded it. I didn't watch it Thursday. I did record it, and I ended up watching it Sunday before the Patriots game. And I will say this. I'm happy that they have a TV deal that allows them to be watched by more people. With that being said, they need better production. It felt very indie, right? And I know if I'm someone, you don't take a TV deal if you're just trying to stick with the same, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 people already watching your program. You obviously take a TV deal to get more viewership. I felt like it was very low budget. And it's not a negative, right, per se. But just the way it looked, the camera didn't have the best quality. The arena looked very indie with the steel barricades. I just, even, AJ Styles coming out there and giving this hoorah speech to start the show, and it just felt like a company trying its best to mimic WWE, but not quite getting it correct. Right? Even we have celebrities in the arena. No one no, and I'm glad. I mean, you're definitely putting people from the AMC network on TV, and I'm glad you're trying to do that. But even in how it was done and presented and how it looked, it all just felt super indie. It felt super not as well produced as it could have been. And I know that's going to come with the more money and everything. I'm just going to be honest, the look itself just sort of took me out of watching the show. With that being said, for the most part, the show wasn't bad. I think there was a little bit too much wrestling for me. I would have treated this was one of the things I was surprised with them doing this directly the week of, 3 days before their Genesis event. You're essentially doing a go home show as your debut episode. I would have waited a week, had Genesis happen, and then had the debut the week after Genesis, the next Thursday. So this Thursday coming up. And what I would have done was essentially done a reset of the programming and made the entire debut episode like a pilot or intro episode to something where you introduce to the new viewers and to the network all your characters, right? And you have, right, and it sort of was how it was presented, where Santino comes out there And Daria Ray, formerly known as Sonya Deville, comes out and she looks like she's, going to be like a GM of some sort. And she then debuts, formerly known as Cora Jade, or now known as Elena Black. And she debuts, and you have all of like some of that element of this. We're debuting these people. It felt to me very similar to AEW and how AEW sort of runs the company, where they sort of book the show for the already existing fans. And then there was very little, in my opinion, explanation as what is a TNA? Why do I care about it? Who are these people? Why do I want to tune into this every Thursday? It just didn't, it missed that for me. If I hadn't had previous experience watching TNA before, I don't know if watching the show would have convinced me to come back and watch the next week. And I think that's ultimately what needs to happen with a wrestling show. Like, every show should be, and this gets, we got some questions that, several questions are like, how would you run WWE type thing? And so I don't want to, overstep, those questions. But I have a certain way I view wrestling and how the weekly programming should be. And so that for me is, we'll get to it when I get there, but it didn't hit to me as a debut, because to me, I looked at this as, this is a debut episode, they're going to go all out. And I just don't think they did that for me, if I'm being honest. Second thing I want to talk about is this weekend, this Saturday, is Saturday night's main event. Now, I have no idea what's happening. I do know it's in Montreal. I have zero idea what matches are happening. And I'm not going to look it up right now. But I just want to remind everyone, and including myself, we have a wrestling event with Saturday night's main event happening on Saturday. I might tune into it. I might not. We'll see. I think this is going to be the start of a potential Sami Zayn push in his hometown or home country of Canada. Third thing, I don't know if you guys saw this, Royal Rumble is also around the corner. Not this weekend, but the weekend after. And I don't know if you guys saw, but you can buy tickets on Fandango to watch Royal Rumble at a movie theater. I think it's just Regal theaters that are holding, in their select ones. There's only one in North Carolina, that, at least in my area, that I know of, in the Charlotte area. But you can now watch Royal Rumble in a theater if you don't want to spend $30 on the ESPN app. You can go spend $30 and go to a Regal theater, and I don't know actually what the tickets cost, but I imagine they're not super cheap. I would imagine they're more than movie price, but you can now watch it in a theater. I think it's cool if it wasn't a 2 p.m. start time it is on a Sunday, right? Because it's in Saudi, it's on a Sunday, it's 2 p.m. start time. I'm contemplating the experience. I'm contemplating it. I don't know. It's going to be interesting watching a Royal Rumble at 2 p.m. I technically can watch it at home. My brother has it through Fubu or whatever it is that he has. I meant to check to see if YouTube TV has it yet. I actually can do that now. Let's see. Doesn't look like it. Wait. Maybe I'm wrong. We will see. Huh. Let me double check. I'm on the ESPN app and it's hard to fucking use this app if I'm being honest. Let's see if I could find the WWE stuff. Because they never show it. Even though you're... Let's see if I can click something on Unlimited. Yeah, so... Not there yet. Anyway, I could watch it through my brother's Fubo account if I wanted to. But that is something, another option to watch it through a theater. And then the final thing, Beemaster actually put this in the Discord, and I was like, well, I'm going to talk about this because this is pretty interesting. Bleacher Report has ranked the top 25 women wrestlers in WWE history. And I'm going to go from 25 and go up and talk about this list for a minute. Because some of it I agree with, and some of it I don't agree with. Give me a second here. Alright, here we go. So we'll start at 25 with Michelle McCool. I'm fine with her on this. Let's just be honest. I don't even know if there's... Like I wouldn't have done a top 25. I probably would have done genuinely like a top 20. And even there, I don't even know if there's like... Obviously, there's been enough women you could do a top 25. But like top 25, like let's just be genuinely honest. Women's wrestling was never taken seriously enough until about 2015. Obviously, you had Trish and Lita in that era, and Mickie James in that era. But outside of that, you know, maybe even like a Beth Phoenix in that area. And obviously, Chyna was good in her own age, in her own era. But I just don't necessarily know if Michelle McCool, like, what do I think about her when I think of female wrestlers that have made a difference to me? No. I guess she could be 25th. I honestly don't think... I don't know. I don't know. Right? Because then 24 is Jacqueline. And Jackie was great. I'm not going to take anything away from Jackie. She was great in her time. I didn't watch her that much. I'm not going to take away from her. I think she was wonderful. And 23 is Bull Nakano. I never watched Bull Nakano. I have no idea if she was great or not. Right? So, we're the first person that I could sort of critique their whole career on this list is Shayna Baszler. And she's 22. And I'm going to be a little bit honest with you. She does not deserve to be in a top 25 list. What did Shayna, like outside of her NXT, and that was great, but outside of that, what did Shayna do? Is being a two-time NXT champion going to get you on the top 25 of all time list? I don't know if I quite agree with that at all. 21 is Alundra Blaze. I didn't see her career, so again, I'm not going to really talk much about her. She's fine on the list. I just don't know if I necessarily have anything to comment about it. I really feel these bottom 5 here, you could have done a top 20 list, left these 5 off, and I don't know if anyone's complaining. I'm just going to be honest. 20 is Liv Morgan, and I will say this. I 100% agree that Liv Morgan is in the top 20 most influential and best women of all time. And to say that is because there haven't been that... Like I just feel like this list is too big. It is what I'm going to come down to that. Because I don't even know if I would put Liv Morgan on like the greatest of all time. I feel like this list should be a top 15. Maybe gracious, you can do a top 20. I just feel like there hasn't been enough influential women in WWE history to make a top 25 list at this point. I think maybe in 20 years you would be able to have that, because there will be a lot of the younger stars as women's wrestling. But like I said, up until maybe 2000, like when did the whole women's revolution thing start? 2015? Up until then, I just feel like they've treated women's wrestling as a background thing, and nothing really stuck out, in my opinion, right? Liv Morgan will definitely move up this list, though, as her career goes on. I will say the last 3 years of Liv Morgan's career, she's been one of the top wrestlers in the women's division in all of wrestling. 19 is Alexa Bliss. I actually have nothing wrong with this placement. She's good. She definitely has some accomplishments in WWE with her championship runs. I definitely don't think she's anywhere towards the top of this list. I'm fine with her at 19. 18 is AJ Lee, which will honestly piss a lot of people off. But it doesn't piss me off. Because when I think of AJ Lee, I think of really a period of time of about 3 years. I don't know. It's part of the same argument I use as to why I don't put Stone Cold or Rock on my Mount Rushmore of wrestling, right? If you guys recall my Mount Rushmore, it's Hogan, Flair, Cena, and Roman Reigns, right? That's my Mount Rushmore of WrestleMania, Mount Rushmore of male wrestlers. My argument for why Stone Cold and The Rock don't get on there is because their tenure as top stars were like 2, 3, 4 years at max. Like The Rock was big, and then he was out of the company by like 2001, 2002, and Stone Cold sort of the same thing, as he left around 03, 04, right? And now they come back and stuff like that, and that's just extra. But like the bulk of their major career that everyone remembers, that length of tenure was only about 2, 3, 4 years, right? And that's the same thing I have with AJ Lee. She never really had much of a impact in terms of longevity, and that's something that I value when it comes to all-time lists. If you had like one great season as a quarterback, you're not an all-time great quarterback. You just had a very good season, right? And so even if, so for me, like, AJ Lee doesn't represent a lot of she had about a year and a half when I came back to watch wrestling, 2014, and like, I don't know how long she stayed but like when Charlotte and the Four Horsemen and them got caught up, AJ Lee sort of just disappeared, right? And so I don't think she has the longevity to be much higher than an 18, right? 17 is Mickie James. This one, I could argue, might be too low. But then again, when I think of Mickie James, I think more of her TNA career, and then the Trish Stratus story. And so, again, I don't know how much impact she had in terms of longevity in WWE. I'm fine with a 17. 16 is Natalya. And I like this. Natalya's been very influential in the company. And I think while she probably doesn't have the accolades she might want, I 100% believe she's been one of the most, longest tenured women, most consistent women on the roster. And yeah, I think 16's cool for her. 15 is Beth Phoenix. And yeah, I'd agree with this. I know there was a lot of people who really liked Beth Phoenix. I've never been a big fan of her, to be honest. I just haven't. I don't really see much of anything as to what was likable about Beth Phoenix, just to me. So I'm fine with this. 14's a little crazy because what they did was it's the Bella twins, and so it's Nikki and Brie combined. And really, what this is just Nikki Bella, right? Nikki Bella was definitely the better of the two. Even though I cheered for Brie more because I cheered for Daniel Bryan, and when I first got back into wrestling in 2014, I will say this: Nikki Bella, to me, is more influential than AJ Lee to wrestling. I think she had better runs. I think Nikki Bella is very good, and it gets so much hate, I think, for no reason. I will agree, you kind of are tagging Brie along with this, and Brie's not on a top 25 list on anything. And so Brie is sort of holding you down, but this is definitely like a Nikki Bella part of it, and you just sort of include Brie for whatever reason, right? Number 12, 13. Number 13 is Io Sky. I'll allow it. She's, I don't know. I want to know the criteria, I really do, of this list. I feel like this is out of the blue. Sure, Io's been pretty consistent, pretty good. She's had some really good matches. I don't know, like, if I would put her in a top 15 of greatest women in WWE of all time. At least to me at the moment. Number 12 is Paige or Saraya. So I don't know if B-Master, me and you were talking about if Paige deserves to be on the list or not. And because you said that she wasn't here. She is here. She is number 12. And I do agree that this is a little high. I don't think Paige deserves to be on this list or in the top 15. Personally, to me, I think Liv Morgan's too low. It was one of my thoughts that I was having. I would take Paige out of this list and put a Liv Morgan in. So personally, to me, Liv and Alexa are too low. I would take Io and Paige out and put in Liv and Alexa, just personally, into the top 15. Paige to me just never really did much of anything. Like, she didn't, again, once the Four Horsewomen came up, she became a background story. And then she had all the drama with the Xavier Woods and Brad Maddox thing, and then the Alberto Del Rio thing, and she just couldn't get out of her own way, and then she ended up getting hurt, and then she became like a valet, and then she left, and she hasn't really been something to me that is worthy of a top 12 all-time thing. And number 11 is Ronda Rousey. I guess you can say so. They over-pushed Ronda. To me, Ronda wasn't all that, but I guess if you want to say she's an all-timer, I guess I'll allow it. Number 10 is Lita, and 100% agree she should be on here. Not much more to say. She was probably, in her generation, one of the better wrestlers on the roster, including all the men. Like, just fantastic athleticism. Lita's definitely a top 10 all-time. Number 9 is Asuka. I can see it again if you're judging based on the NXT run. She had a decent beginning of her main roster run. I don't know. I'm not big on Asuka. I don't know if I'd put her in the top 10. In my personal. But then again, who am I putting in instead of her? So number 8 is Chyna. And 100% agree with this. 100% agree Chyna is a top 10 woman of all time. Well beyond her her era. Like, she was definitely entertaining and unique and Yeah, I definitely think she could be up there. Number 7's Bianca Belair, and I'm not going to hate because I do like Bianca, and she has been pretty influential and pretty important to the women's division of all time. Again, this is where I would love to know the criteria, because as much of a Bianca fan that I am, I love Bianca Belair. And I can't wait for her to be back full time and, wrestling again. I don't know if I agree that she's a top 10 of all time. Again, the question is the same that I asked with Asuka, though, is who do I put in here? Do I think Bianca's better than Chyna? Maybe. But it's really hard to judge the two because Chyna was sort of in a league of her own in a way different era. So I don't know. Maybe Bianca's fine here. 6 is Bayley. And I'm okay with Bayley at 6. I think there's one person in the top 5 that I would knock out and put Bayley in. But I'm okay with Bayley at 6. Number 5 is Sasha Banks. She would be the one that I would knock out and put Bayley in. Mainly because once Sasha got to the main roster, I mean, she has a lot of championship runs, but they were like 3-week runs, and her and Charlotte passed the belt flip-floppity-flop like 8 times in like a 3-month span. There was a title change. And so I think there's a lot of stat padding there, a lot of complaining, I just don't think she's as good as a lot of fans say she is. Number 4 is Rhea Ripley. I think Rhea's too low. I'm going to be honest with you. I think Rhea should, and this is my honest opinion, Rhea should be number 1. Because Rhea has a mixture of literally everything that the top 3 in front of her have. She's great on the mic, probably one of the greatest in-ring wrestlers in the women's division of all time. She has a character. She has, the stats and the titles. She has the fan engagement. She has a unique look. I think Rhea Ripley already can say is the best of all time in the women's division. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. I truly believe that. Number 3 is Trish Stratus. And I'll give Trish a top 4. I would put her in 4th. But I'll give her a top 4 position. She's good. She was very good for, again, in an era where women's wrestling wasn't necessarily all that important to the show. She made it important to the show. And so I'll give Trish her props. 2 is Charlotte, and I'm fine with her being positioned there, and that means number 1 is Becky Lynch. And like I said, I wouldn't put her at 1. I would put Rhea at 1. But I definitely see why you would put someone like Becky Lynch at number 1. She has definitely been a very key component to the women's division in WWE with a lot of success, and one of the most over wrestlers at one point. I would even say when the man gimmick was at its peak, she was the most over wrestler, man or woman, in the world. And so I think that's something very unique for the women's division, so I'm fine with that. But I think Mommy, like at its peak, when it was the hottest, when she was still in the Judgment Day and all of that was going, and it was at its peak with the Liv Morgan story, I would be willing to say Rhea Ripley was the most over woman in the world, but definitely and possibly even the most over wrestler in the world. And so that's where I'm at with that. So with that, let's then move into 4th and deep. Let's talk about the NFL playoffs. And we have to start that by asking the never-ending question. We ask this as football fans every year. the never-ending question, which we never get an answer to: what is a catch? And this all stems from the Buffalo Bills Broncos game, as well as several other instances in the same week where we had potential catches that may not have been catches. But again, the main conversation piece in this conversation is the Bills-Broncos game and what happened at the very end of the game in overtime with the Brandon Cooks supposed catch, which ended up being an interception. Was it a catch? Was it not? If you ask a Bills fan, they're going to say it was a catch. If you ask non-Bills fans, they're about 50-50 split. And so, with that being said, I want to read from you guys several different rules analysts. So I got Gene Steratore here, and then we'll read from Terry McCauley, right? And we'll actually read Terry's first because the tweet's shorter. He tweeted this on the 17th at 6:54 p.m., so that was Saturday, right around the time. This is what Terry McCauley posts. He said, a player going to the ground to catch a pass must maintain control during and after contact with the ground. That's the rule. Apply accordingly. So that's one rules analyst interpretation. Now, Gene Steratore has a much longer worded tweet that says the following. At some point when reviewing plays, the league should consider adding a speed threshold for anything involving the element of time. When you slow plays down to the 1/100th of the speed, it distorts what actually happened and makes it look like, in this case, Brandon Cooks possessed the ball for seconds prior to losing it. The game is not played in slow motion or frame by frame. For a catch, A, secure control of the ball, check mark. B, 2 feet in bounds, check mark. C, after A and B have been fulfilled, clearly performs any act common to the game. Example, extends the ball forward, takes an additional step, tucks the ball away and turns upfield, or avoid or ward off an opponent, or he maintains control of the ball long enough to do so. C is where there is judgment needed, since A and B are clearly met. Now consider this note to the rule. If a player who satisfied A and B but has not satisfied C, contacts the ground and loses control of the ball, it is an incomplete pass if the ball hits the ground before he regains control, or if he regains control out of bounds. Because Cooks did lose control of the ball when he contacted the ground and the ball never contacted the ground, it was ruled an interception by Denver. This is the point that I think a lot of Bills fans and people saying it was a catch is completely missing. This has been part of the game forever. This is the Calvin Johnson rule. You must survive the ground, and what I like to say is through the ground. What does that mean? You must survive through the ground. What do I mean by that? What does the rule state? It states when you hit the ground, you have to keep control through that contact. Now, if you watch the play, there have been 1,500 angles in all of this. If you watch the play, I believe it's very clear that Brandon Cooks, I think even before he hits the ground, loses control of the ball. So J.J. Watt makes a very good point that no one I've asked has ever answered the question he asked. And essentially what he asked is, if the defender wasn't there and Brandon Cooks, hits the ground and drops the ball, would these fans saying it was a catch, would they therefore then say that that would be ruled a fumble? Or would they say it was an incomplete pass? Because the rule, based on what we saw happen, what we just read from Sterator as well, if what happened without a defender happened and Brandon Cooks loses the ball, it would have been ruled an incomplete pass because he doesn't survive the ground. Here's the key part in the rule that a lot of people don't understand or seem to contemplate. It drives me insane that no one has ever like this has been part of the game for about like a decade and a half now. You have to complete contact through the ground. You have to survive the ground. Brandon Cooks doesn't. And so it happens in the Bears-Rams game with Davante Adams, and they rule it a catch, or they rule it incomplete. When what looks like the same thing happens. Here's the difference with, they ruled it a catch. They ruled that Davante Adams maintained control of the ball, was down by contact, and it was a catch. I got it all mixed up. And everyone's complaining. It's the same thing that happened in Buffalo. No, it's not. You know why? Because Brandon Cooks did not survive the ground. Davante Adams did. Davante Adams survived the ground, kept possession of the football through contact to the ground, was then made contact with his knee on the ground after surviving the ground, and therefore is then down by contact. Completely different plays. Completely different plays. Right? Which brings me to point 2, is that Buffalo fans are crying again. Which is, the third week of January. It was prone to happen. You could set your clock by it. Vacation time and crying of Bills Mafia. Right? And it just absolutely blows my mind that at the amount of excuses that the media and the fan bases and everything has for this Buffalo Bills team. The amount of excuses coming out of Buffalo and out of the sports media to protect Josh Allen is absolutely insane. Now, I will say this. Josh Allen did not lose this game. Josh Allen did not lose this game for the Buffalo Bills. I will say that. I will say that. The defense lost the game for them. The defense gave up 53 yards and penalties. Bills fans will say, oh, that wasn't PI. No. Both of those PIs were textbook, by-the-book PIs. Here's another issue that I have with Bills fans and football fans in general, because a lot of fans will say, well, it's playoff football. You can't call it in that situation. Yes, you can. In fact, you should, because it is the rules. You have to follow. If you're not going to call the rules when it matters the most, why would you call it when it doesn't matter at all? You have to. The referees did their job. Those PIs were PIs. I'm sorry. It's just what it is. And then we go back to something Gene Sterator said about this, about the review and all of that. First off, I think, it was ESPN. I forgot when they showed this. I think it was before the Patriots game on Sunday, or maybe after. I forgot the analyst that they had on that does something with the rules and reviews and stuff. And I want to say it was Colleen Wolfe, but I could be wrong. So one of the female announcers asked, why didn't they stop the game and review it? And he came out and he gave a perfect answer. We watch every play. And we have people in the stadium and people in New York who were watching that play as it happened and we're reviewing it through, right, that we felt conclusive evidence that there wasn't enough to do a game stoppage, right? I am so tired of this sports bro mentality. This here, you want to know my real take on this? I think sport. I mentioned last Friday on the Just Yappin' podcast that I believe that we should get rid of. We should get rid of all. What the hell was I even talking about? Lost my train of thought. Kara asked me a question. I can't remember what it was about. Salary caps. And it wasn't Kara that asked. It was a conversation that I was having in regards to the Dodgers signing someone. And I said that I don't believe that, I believe that we should get rid of the salary caps. Well, another thing I think every league should get rid of is instant replay. Right? We live in this generation that just wants everything to be so perfect. Guys, what made football so great in the 80s? And I never lived to experience this. But if you go back and you watch an 80s football game or a 90s football game, and you just watch the game, and you realize, like, what makes those games so fun is, and entertaining and mean more, is they didn't stop the play to challenge every little thing. We didn't have 1.5 billion rules in terms of targeting and replay and review this, review that. No instant replay. And the game, it used to be that you just sat there and watched a game and enjoyed it. You didn't complain about every referee call. You just took it for what it was, and you moved on. You didn't have to agree with it, but you just moved on. This movement in today's sports world to have every little detail of the game perfect is absolutely annoying. And a lot of it comes from people who sport bet or play fantasy. And I play fantasy football, right? I'm fine with fantasy football. I don't have a problem with it. But the people who sports bet and they play keeper leagues and pay-in leagues with large pay-ins and payouts and fantasy football, well, what I would like to call sports bro, who sort of make an idol out of football, they complain about every little detail. They want everything to be perfect. What makes football fun, what makes sports fun, is the human variable. The one variable we can't remove from football is the human variable. And when you try to remove it and you throw in all this technology and you review everything, you ruin the game. You absolutely ruin the game. Instant replay needs to be removed. It slows the game down. It ruins the game. It takes away. You know what used to happen before instant replay? A call happened. You lived with it, and you tried to strategize to make up from the call. Right? If a call went against you, and maybe you actually got the first down, but they spotted it 3 inches short. Well, you know what you did? You just huddled up, you called the next play, and you got the 3 inches to get the first down. And you moved on, and that's part of sports. That's part of life. And that's what sports was supposed to teach you. It used to be all about how to overcome the human variable and strategize your way to victory. And I just feel with all this overtime, rule changes, and all of these BS rule changes in terms of review and instant replay, we're too comfortable. We want everything perfect. And it's ruining the game. It's ruining the game. It really is. So, now with that, we talked about Bills and Broncos, and the last thing I'll say with that is Josh Allen actually did lose them the game, though. I know a lot of people I know I said he didn't. Technically, when you look at it, it was the defense. A couple things I want to mention, though, about that game is, first off, it shouldn't have gone to overtime because the last Bills drive prior to overtime starting, there was holding in the end zone. Josh Allen was in the end zone. There was a holding that should have been a safety, and the Broncos would have won anyway. But Josh Allen did lose them that game. There were 6 points, 3 on each side of the half, that Josh Allen gave up. They lost the game by 3. Josh Allen lost them the game. His turnovers lost them the game. Here's the problem, and I'm tired of seeing this happen, because if that was Lamar Jackson, everyone's blasting him. If it was Jalen Hurts, everyone's blasting him. If it was Pat Mahomes, everyone's blasting him. If it was Bryce Young, everyone's saying he sucks. If it's Tua, if it's Drake May, if it's Joe Burrow, everyone is blasting him. But for some reason, Josh Allen's protected by sports media. Josh Allen never does anything wrong to sports media. Josh Allen is the perfect saint of football, according to sports media. Never does anything wrong. He's Superman. If anything bad happens, it's not Josh Allen's fault. It's got to be the coach. It's got to be the defense. It's got to be the refs. But it certainly isn't Josh Allen. Or maybe it actually is. Maybe it is. Maybe Josh Allen stat pads in the regular season can show up when the games don't really all matter. And then when time comes for him in the most important games of the season, the pressure might be too much for him. And he played the worst game of his season at the most opportune time he needed to play his best. Who cares about an MVP? Who cares about all the statistics he has? Who cares that he has the most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback of all time? None of that matters, because at the end of the day, he's 8 years into his career, and he's never been past the conference championship. He's never been to a Super Bowl. He's never won a Super Bowl. And there are several quarterbacks like a Lamar Jackson, like a Jalen Hurts, who, if the same thing was said of them, would be critiqued out of the building every single week. But Josh Allen's protected because, for whatever reason, he never does anything wrong. Josh Allen is very talented. He has all the height and the weight and the athletic ability to be a superstar freak athlete. But he's missing the one thing I think makes you successful in this league, and that is clutch. He doesn't have it. When the pressure is on, Josh Allen loses football games. Right? He's at the end of the day. I heard someone say this. I don't remember who it was that I heard say this, but Josh Allen is no different at the end of the day than Dak Prescott. Now, I think Dak Prescott is a top 5 quarterback in this league. I'm not going to take away that Josh Allen's probably a top 5 quarterback in this league. But I don't think he's a GOAT. I think he's way too protected. I think he's done very little in this league to get the type of respect that he has gotten by the sports media, to where any time someone critiques him or something happens to him, it's protected. So we'll move on then. We're not going to talk about the Niners and the Seahawks, other than I wildly overestimated how I thought the Niners would play. When I predicted them to win, I thought they would play. It would be a much closer game. But I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't watch the whole game. I stopped after the first quarter. And so I woke up Sunday morning and was absolutely in shock of the final score. I'm not going to rub it in. I think because I picked wrong. Like, I picked the Niners. Like, I don't have any justification to rub it into Niners fans that they got blown out. I picked y'all to win. Like, if anything, I need to come and apologize. So, right? Here's what I do know, though. I still think the Seahawks offense is questionably beatable. Now, with that being said, and I don't want to give away too much about my predictions, but maybe we'll go back to, I still think the Seahawks are going to the Super Bowl. I think they'll beat the Rams because I think the Rams are just as beatable, right? Speaking of that, they played the Bears, very close game, won by 3 in overtime. I want to talk about these Rams, though. Everyone thinks the Rams are like some super team or something. They're the most beatable team in the playoffs, bro. Everyone wants to talk about the Patriots' easy road to the playoffs, to the what could be a potential Super Bowl. And no one wants to sit here and talk about the Rams. The Rams had to play the Panthers, who were 8-9, probably shouldn't have been in the playoffs. They had to play the Panthers, which were in over their head. Then they had to play the Bears in a game that, again, Caleb Williams was in over their head. He had very little experience in that situation. And they barely beat them. Barely beat them. I genuinely believe that I think the Seahawks are going to smoke the Rams next. I literally do. I think the Seahawks will smoke the Rams. What I want to sit is the final game that we haven't talked about yet. The Texans and the Patriots. Getting a week ahead of myself. The Texans and the Patriots. And I just want to say, after all the talk about how good this Texans defense was. Now, I'll give you something. They played very well. But there were several plays where I was told, no one's getting past Stingley. No one's getting past so-and-so. And Kayshon Boutte makes one of the greatest catches I've ever seen for a touchdown. Drake May throws, I want to say 3 touchdowns. Right? Everyone's sitting here, and this is, like, I'm telling you, I said this on Friday on Just Yappin'. No one gets as much hate as the Patriots do in the NFL. There has never been a team that gets as much hate as the Patriots do when they're on top as the Patriots do. They just don't. I don't know what more the Patriots have to do. Drake May throws 179, three touchdowns. The one interception on the stat line was the last play of the first half when they did a Hail Mary, and it probably shouldn't have even done it. I was even saying just kneel it and go to halftime. Right? Probably a stupid throw. Shouldn't have happened. Right? But he does enough to win the team the game, and they still crap on him. Oh, Matt Stafford play better. When if you look at the statistics in the playoffs and the talent, the challenge that Drake May, not Mac Jones. Mac Jones is on them Niners. That Drake May had to go through. He plays the 5th overall defense in the Chargers week 1, and he goes down, probably plays his worst game of the year, right? And still, though, throws for like 100-something yards. I can pull up exactly here in a second. He goes oh, no, I'm sorry. 268, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But 268, right? While also having 66 yards on the ground, right? He then comes in the week after that and puts up what we saw yesterday, where he puts up 179, 3 touchdowns. So it's 4 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. One of the interceptions, like I just said, was a Hail Mary at the end of the half that shouldn't have been thrown. It was just a stupid play call that shouldn't have been thrown. Right, so technically he's going 4 touchdowns, one interception that was really his. Did he get strip sacked 2 times yesterday? Absolutely. But that's not on Drake May. That's on Will Campbell, man. It's not on May. I even see Patriot fans, and not a lot of them. I see some Patriot fans say, "Oh, Drake's got to get rid of the ball quick." Drake May. First off, there was no one open to get the ball away to on the 2 strip sacks. There was no one open, and that was just Will Campbell messing up on the play, getting beat by a top 5 defensive lineman and Will Anderson. Right. The Texans. So the Patriots play the 5th overall defense and the Chargers. Then they play the 1st overall defense and the Texans. Drake May puts up 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a total of 1 second. A total of 477 yards. So 477 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions against the 1st and 5th overall defense, and puts up a combined. You take away the pick 6, we put up 3 touchdowns on offense. You take away the pick 6, so 21, and I'm pretty sure the 16 points last week were all offensive. I don't think. Yeah. So we put up 16 and 28 is or excuse me, 16 and 21 because we'll just take away the pick 6. So that's 37. 37 points over those defenses in 2 weeks. Right? What more does Drake May have to do? What more do the Patriots have to do? Was it the best game? No, it wasn't. I'll admit it. We didn't play football like the way I wanted to. Did we punt a lot? Sure. Absolutely. But that's football. At the end of the day, the Patriots still showed what I believe to be true about playoff football. Defenses win championships. C.J. Stroud, wildly overrated, by the way, throws 4 interceptions in this game. We stopped their rushing attack to 48 yards and just dominate, just straight up dominate on defense. And I thoroughly believe that as long as you have a competent offense, right? Because a lot of people will hear me say that defenses win championships and then bring up the Eagles. And then I always say, well, they don't have a competent offense. They don't have an offense this year. Because I thoroughly believe if the Eagles had half a competent offense, if the Eagles just run pass options, RPO slants, 90% of the plays called, they dominate every game they play in because that's the way their offense is built, right? If they had an offensive play caller that could call plays that actually fit around what the offensive skill is, the Eagles' defense is good enough that I thoroughly believe they would still be in the playoffs, if not possibly winning the Super Bowl with a half-competent offense because their defense is so good. And the same thing that I believe with the Patriots. The Patriots have a competent offense. It's not an offense that's going to put up 700 yards a game. It's not an offense that's going to bomb the ball down the field all the time. It's a very balanced offense that's going to run the ball a lot, and throw the ball off of the run. That's what the Patriots were from 2000 to 2018. It's what we will be because that is what Vrabel does. If anyone watched Vrabel in Tennessee, that is what Vrabel does. He runs the ball, and he runs the ball a lot, and he puts on a defensive atmosphere where defenses win him games. The best year he had in Tennessee, he not only had Derrick Henry pounding the ball down people's throat, he had a defense that was top-tier stellar. Didn't have anything special at quarterback. He had Ryan Tannehill. He didn't have very much anything as far as receivers that year, but he had Derrick Henry, and he had a very good defense. That's all he needs. What does he have this year? He has Drake May probably playing at MVP caliber season. He has very unknown receivers. Like, we wouldn't call Kayshon Boutte or Pop Douglas or Kyle Williams like elite level receivers. I don't even know if you would classify Diggs in that elite level athlete, right? You have Hunter Henry, and you have a running game. It's not Derrick Henry as one running back, but it's a dual threat running game that's like a Derrick Henry, but between Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson. You run the ball, you pass off the run, you play great defense, and you win football games. That is how the Patriots are playing football. That's how they have played football when they were the greatest. And then the years in between Brady and now Drake May, where we suffered, was because we couldn't run the ball and we didn't play good defense. Does it have a little bit to do with the man playing quarterback? Sure. A little bit. But I don't think a lot. We didn't play good defense. We couldn't protect, so we couldn't run the ball. Right? The Cam Newton, Mac Jones years, we weren't really competent in the offensive line category. Right? And so we couldn't run the ball. We couldn't throw the ball off the run, and we didn't play great defense. But you know what Mike Vrabel brought in? He brought in a mentality, a toughness, a culture of we're going to run it down their throat, we're going to run it a lot, we're going to protect, we're going to let Drake do what Drake does because Drake is great, and we're going to play great defense. That way Drake doesn't have to be great all the time. Like I genuinely believe we could go into Denver and Drake May doesn't have to be a 100 QBR, perfect pass completion percentage, and 7 touchdowns to win this football game. Because I believe our defense, right? And everyone's going to automatically come in with the excuse, well, you're playing Jarrett Stidham, Bo Nix is hurt, this, that, and the third. Oh, the Patriots have the easiest path to the Super Bowl. They get so lucky. No, the last time I checked, every single player on an NFL roster is at the top of the game of football, is a top-tier athlete, and is a pro football player. It's, like, again, the only team that gets the level of hate that the Patriots get when they're at the top of the league is the Patriots. There isn't another team that, maybe the Eagles. I'll give that to you. The Eagles get some hate a lot as a team, right? But the Patriots are, when it comes to the media perception and how the fan base in general, the overall internet fan base and everything perceives the Patriots, the way that the narrative is told, they're the only team that gets this level of hate. That a 4-13 team the last 2 years that goes 14-3 and now is 1 win away from the Super Bowl. The league's rigged, easy path, as if greatest show on turf, 99 Rams, 72 Dolphins. They didn't have easy path, right? They just had the easiest, right? Everyone's talking about the schedule for the Patriots this year. It's the 7th easiest in NFL history. The 72 Dolphins undefeated season, above that, right? 99 Rams, greatest show on turf Rams, easier schedule than the current Patriots, right? Right, but the amount of hatred from the league that the Patriots get for being successful, no one else gets that. The Chiefs didn't get that in their run. The Eagles haven't got it yet, and I would say they're the closest, but no one, right? I'm waiting. Like, the haters are already back. I'm waiting for the next Deflategate scandal to pop up. to take away from the Patriots, right? It's all right. It's never going to be enough. Drake May's not good, apparently. And you see, it's just craziness. It's just absolute craziness. With that being said, I sort of already gave it away. Seahawks are beating the Rams. Patriots are beating the Broncos. Seahawks, Patriots, Super Bowl will be my prediction. And with that, we will move on to questions from the Discord. First one, was there a specific wrestler that you just knew was real and were kind of scared of? Yes. Doink the Clown. As a kid, first off, I don't necessarily like clowns now. I'm not as afraid of clowns as I was when I was a little kid. I absolutely hated clowns, bro. Absolutely despised clowns as a kid. Like, would never get around them. Even, like, birthday parties that had clowns, I wouldn't go to. Right? If there was a clown at the mall or whatever, I wouldn't go in it. Right? If Ronald McDonald showed up at McDonald's, I wouldn't go in it. I absolutely despise clowns. And I remember, it may have been a Royal Rumble or something. I don't remember what show it was. But Doink's music hit. And I don't know, like, I can't even explain the feeling because I was so young, but, like, was just terrified. I hated Doink the Clown, bro. Absolutely despised it. Next question. Being that you are a huge Patriots fan, who would you want to be your tag team partner? I thought long and hard about this one because I was trying to do, I want someone fast. What type of mentality am I looking at? And then I ultimately settled on, I want someone who would die for me as my partner, do whatever it takes to win. And while he struggled the last 2 weeks, I like his mentality. He's big, he's beefy. He's all game. When he gets locked in, he's locked in. And that is Will Campbell. And that is who I would want to be my tag team partner. Next question. If you could have any ability from the animal kingdom, what would you choose? I feel a lot of people would choose like cheetah speed or gorilla strength or something like that. And I went the practical route because that's the way my brain went. And because I don't see any practicality of me being as fast as a cheetah. There's never going to be a situation where I need to be that fast, right? And there's never going to be a situation where I need the strength of a gorilla, right? And so none of those are very practical to me. So practical to me is, and what I ended up choosing was the intelligence and problem solving of the octopus. And I know this is an answer that no one was ever thinking, but octopus, I don't even know how do you say, is it octopuses? Now I feel like I just violated terms and conditions. Octopus, octopi, I don't know, what's the plural for octopus? But their intelligence and their problem solving, the ability to sort of get out of situation, like that's the type of stuff that I think is practical. The only other one that maybe I could think of would be like the eyesight of like an eagle or a hawk. But even then, I don't necessarily know if having the best in the world eyesight is necessarily practical. I think just intelligence and problem solving, where I could solve a problem lickety split, didn't have to think about it like that. I would love to have that type of ability. That's more practical to me. B-Master asks, and I quote that he asked it because it's very specific to this question, is there a time limit on bragging rights? Meaning, if my favorite sports team won a championship back in 1997, has time passed to say that I can't say anything anymore? I liked Highlander's answer to this question when it was asked. He said, if your last championship was on VHS, you probably can't brag about it anymore. And I would definitely agree with that statement. My answer to this is a lot more strict, though. I think defending champions and their fans can only brag about that Super Bowl until the next season starts, right? So if the Patriots win in the Super Bowl this year in February, we have until August to celebrate it, and then we just act like we've been there, right? That's how I've always been. But I genuinely say, now, if you're using it as a fact, like if you come, and this is just the way I am as a fan, I'm never going to throw around, oh, we won 7 Super Bowl, or we have 6 Super Bowls, and I'm never, maybe unless it's the Bills fan, and I'm joking around, but like, I'm never going to be serious and bragging about the amount of championships my team has won, no matter how long the time has been. And the only time I'll use that is if I'm using it in factual information, where like someone's going on about so-and-so's I would be like, well, the Patriots are actually the greatest dynasty of all time, because in the 20-year period they won 6 Super Bowls. I don't feel like that's bragging, right? That's just being realistic, in how in factual. I will say, though, yes, B-Master, you can't brag about the Cowboys championships, because the last Cowboys Super Bowl is older than me, and I've never lived to see a year where the Cowboys made the Super Bowl. In fact, I don't ever know if I've ever seen the Cowboys play in a conference championship. I think the Tony Romo Cowboys-Seahawks game was the conference championship, I believe, right? But that I think was the last time they went to a conference championship. So I've seen, in my lifetime, you've been to one conference championship that I can think of? I just absolutely crazy. Yeah, you can't brag about any of that, right? And like the Niners, here's what I'll say about the Niners. The Niners can at least say that they've been to a Super Bowl in the last decade, and they've been twice in the last 15 years, right? It was 13 against the Ravens, and then 22, I believe, against Mahomes and the Chiefs. So at least the Niners can talk about that. But yeah, I think, genuinely speaking, like, I'm not going to brag about this year once the year's over. While the year's going on, I'll brag about it, but once it's over, it's over, and I'm going to act like I've been there. I mean, as a fan of teams, I've seen six Super Bowls victories. I've seen, and that's from the Patriots. I've seen the Celtics win 2 titles. I've seen the Red Sox win 3 World Series. I believe we've won 3 since I've been born. And I've seen the Bruins hold up the Stanley Cup in 2011. And I've also seen a lot of people may not consider this a sport, but I've seen my NASCAR driver, Jeff Gordon, when he was my driver, 4 titles. And Chase Elliott, when he was my driver, win 1 title. And so, as a sports fan, I'm a very spoiled one, because I literally, I was just thinking about this the other day. If the Patriots make the Super Bowl this year, which there's a very large chance with Jarrett Stidham playing for the Broncos, that the Patriots will win and make the Super Bowl, that this would be the 12th Super Bowl, highlight. Since I've been alive, this would be the 10th Super Bowl that the Patriots have been to since I've been alive. So if we take away 85 and 96, because I was born in 97, in that period of time, in the 28 years that I've been alive, the Patriots have been will have been to 10 Super Bowls in the 28 years that I've been alive, which is just under 50% of the Super Bowls since I've been alive the Patriots have been to. Starting with 01 against the Rams, all the way through, if we make it this year, right? It would be 10 Super Bowls that we would have gone to in the last 28 6 years, but right? And so 10 and 26 years, like I said, is very close to 50% of all Super Bowls in my lifetime have been New England Patriots Super Bowls, right? Nearly half of them. Of all Super Bowls, 25% of them, I think, excuse me, if the Patriots win the Super Bowl this year, that will be 7 of 28. Right, because it would be the 28th. This will be the 28th Super Bowl I've been alive for. If the Patriots win, 7 of 28, 25% of all Super Bowls in my lifetime would have been won by the New England Patriots if we win this year. 25%. Right? And so, yeah, I think there is a bragging rights sort of limit, and I would say, to be generous, 5 years. Anything 5 years or less, or excuse me, 5 years or older, you can't really brag about, right? Like, I'm not going to brag about the Super Bowl we won against the Eagles in 2004, right? It's just not going to happen. Like, I'm not going to brag about it, right? Next one, I think this was a Wavy D question. You're Triple H and you have the power to reconstruct the roster. Give each roster at least 6 tag teams. I misread the question. For some reason, only read. For some reason, I said that you have 6 tag teams on the roster. Who are you putting in each division? I read it wrong. He said put 6 tag teams on each roster. Now, a part of me is wondering, I'm not going to fix it because I've already answered it on my notes. Part of me is wondering, is he talking about Raw and SmackDown? And if that's the case, I did extra work because I did Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. I didn't miss it by much. I put 5 on each tag. I put 5 teams on each, so I didn't miss it by much. So I'm not going to fix it. We'll just do right. With Raw, I would start with the Usos in the New Day as sort of my veteran presence. They have history that we could definitely dig into to start with that division. I'm going to have the Creeds and Fraxium as sort of the current top tier tag teams that can put on really good matches. And then I'm gonna go on a limb here, and I'm gonna put a tag team on Raw that I think could be the future of the division if they book them correctly, and that is OTM. Right? If I'm shaking up this tag team roster, the Usos and the New Day are credible talents with the Creeds and Fraxium as sort of the top. I probably would immediately give credibility back to the Creeds that they sort of lost in the Wyatt Six thing, and I would make them what they were in NXT. Same thing with Fraxium, and those would sort of be the top of my talent. And then I would have OTM sort of middle of the road, dominating some teams, right? And I'm gonna have OTM in that right there, right? With NXT, I'm having Dark State. And Chase U sort of be right. So Dark State, Chase U is there because Chase U is very, as long as Andre Chase is there, he can have new recruits every 2 or 3 years with Chase U and be sort of like a developmental thing that puts up new talent, and so that's what I like about having something like a Chase U. Then you have Hank and Tank. I like Swipe Right. I think Swipe Right could instantly be and if we'll also include Jackson Drake and say the Vanity Project, right? But that would be a faction, so we're just talking tag team, so it's Swipe Right. And then I would end it with High Rise, which is Tyson and Tyreek. When Wesley was starting, I kind of feel with him leaving, it kind of slowed down Tyreek and Tyson. And so I would definitely put something more on them. When it comes to SmackDown, pretty deadly, and the Street Profits would be sort of some veteran presence, as well as Motor City Machine Gun. I would have Los Garza on this roster, but I would actually book them in a way that was competent. And then the only tag team that I put on a roster that isn't technically a tag team right now is this one. I would have Trick Mellow Gang be a tag team again. And I would push them to the moon. 100% would be my tag champions on SmackDown. Right? Kara asked the question, who ruined their career the most? I had to ask for clarification. Are we speaking football or wrestling? She said, how about both? I said, okay. Then I went above and beyond and listed 4 names under each, because that's just what I do. So we'll start with the wrestling. Who ruined their career the most? We'll start with Velveteen Dream. 100% was Shawn Michaels' favorite, I think, at the time. Triple H loved him. Shawn loved him. I think Velveteen Dream had everything it took to be the face of a company, and then it got kind of ruined. Next, Austin Aries. I don't even remember exactly what Austin Aries did, but I have heard that he's like super hard to get along with in locker rooms, and I kind of just feel like his ego got in the way of what could have been a decent career. ACH, I don't know if you guys remember him. He went by Jordan Miles in NXT, and he sort of kind of ruined his whole career over the t-shirt design, making a lot of something over nothing. And I haven't heard much about him since that incident. This is just a case of getting in your own way of your own build. And then what I might think is the actual answer to this is someone I actually like in wrestling and love. I love this talent, and it's Tessa Blanchard. Everyone knows how much I like Tessa Blanchard, right? I talked about her all the time since her return to TNA, right? But I think Tessa Blanchard, before everything happened, like 2017, 2018, Tessa Blanchard, when she was like 20, 21 years old, fine. Everyone loved her. She was probably the greatest women's wrestler on the planet at the time, and destined for success. Everyone was talking about her and Charlotte and dream matches. And then everything, whatever happened. And I'm a proponent of, second chances, and if the person that she said the things to forgave her, I think we should forgive her. But I ultimately believe she did ruin her career the most, in that she lost like 6 years of time and notoriety, and in a business where it's all about how much you can get people to know and care about you. 6 months off of people not knowing who you are kind of hurts. And then, of course, you just have the chance and everything following after you. So I think that might be the actual answer. Then we thought about football, and the first thing that I thought of was Antonio Brown. That'll be my honorable mention because he's not in my list here. Because I think there are 4. Like, Antonio Brown definitely destroyed his career, but I don't think he destroyed it as much as these other 4 did. Right? I think he was sort of towards the peak of his career anyway, about to go away in notoriety. But these 4 that I have listed for football were like superstars waiting to happen, and then sort of fizzled out or had something happen. So the first is Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon may have been at the end of his career, if he was able to play it fully, Josh Gordon may have been the best wide receiver of all time. If he could have just stayed away from weed. I don't know how many chances he got, but it felt like every season he was getting busted with it. Right? If Josh Gordon could have just locked in, he could have potentially been the greatest wide receiver of all time. I then want to move to next, and this is sort of bittersweet, but genuinely, Aaron Hernandez was very talented, won a national championship with Florida, 4th round draft pick with the Patriots. Possibly could, with the 1-2 hitter with Gronk, possibly could have ended up just as good as Gronk was. And in the picture of being a top 5 tight end of all time. But his past caught up with him. Murder caught up with him. And ultimately, it ended his career. It's kind of a sad story when you think about it. I know we make jokes about it all the time as football fans, but it's really a sad story of what could have been. And then speaking of sad stories of what could have been, Jamarcus Russell has to be someone who ruined his own career. Just absolutely such a waste of talent, bro. Arm talent galore. One of the greatest college quarterbacks ever. First overall pick, and just nothing ever came out of it. And it's all on him. He always came in to camp overweight, severely overweight, wasn't really progressing. Just such one of the first names I think of in football when you talk about ruining your career. And then the last name, might not be a name people have remembered, but I do. Albert Haynesworth. Played for Washington. I ended up getting paid big money. As a defense, I think he was the number 1 highest paid D tackle at one point. He was dominant early. Then he get this payday. He then ends up in the Patriots for a year. Again, he gets all this money. He fizzles out. Nothing really comes out of it after he gets the payday. And he sort of just is a distant memory. Just nothing after he got the money. So he definitely was one that if he continued to play at the rate he was playing before the money, he would have ended up one of the greatest D tackles of all time. 100%. And so those were the names there. I then get asked, if you ran WWE for a year, who's your first champion? Now, I went ahead and became extra, did extra work. And I did this for all 3 brands, all championships on the brand. Right? So, let's start. So essentially, what does WWE look like from a championship perspective if WETOODEEP was given the reins on January 1st and I had a full year to book WWE? What do I immediately make? Now, the changes don't happen on the first show, but we start to do things. And this is what my champions would look like. You're going to notice a pattern, I think. So we start on Monday Night Raw, and we start with the World Heavyweight Champion. Who will be my World Heavyweight Champion? That would be Logan Paul. Logan Paul, 100% would be my World Heavyweight Champion. Who would be my Women's World Champion? That would be Liv Morgan. All right. Who is my Women's IC Champion? We're actually going to keep it the way it is, and we'll keep it as Maxine Dupree, but it would be a heel Maxine Dupree. So what I would actually do and let's just go back and preface this, is I would start the first episode, I would come out, and I would address myself as an on-stage character, as the brand new EVP of content creation of TKO or WWE, and that I have been given complete authority for 1 year to book the show. And I make all the calls, that I'm the boss of the GMs, and I'm going to be running the show. And I said, what we're going to do is we will open up open challenges for every single championship. And that entire first show would be pretty much, it would be a full-blown wrestling event. Open challenge after open challenge after open challenge to get champions, right? And so then what ends up happening would be all the drama in the back of people trying to get into that open challenge, right? And so immediately Logan Paul tries to get in. Okay, Logan, you could be part of the group. You can have Punk, right? And Liv gets against Stephanie, right? And eventually what we'll do is Maxine Dupree won't have an open challenge. Why? Because there's a backstage segment where she comes to the office, knocks on the door, and says, what do I have to do to not defend this title? Right? And I said, Maxine, join me. And so eventually what I'm going to start doing is building a faction of people who join me as a heel faction, and we're going to sort of run WWE. Sort of like mutiny type thing from WWE video game, but not really. Right? So Maxine comes to me and says, you know what, I'll join you. And I said, cool. You chose correctly. You won't have an open challenge. The camera swerves around, and in the office, in my GM's office, EVP office, is Zoruka and Zaruka, right? And we're conversing, and they're like, and I turn to him and I say, that's the type of decision that y'all should make as well. And they said, okay, we'll join you as well. And I said, perfect. Zaruka, you guys have Rhea and Io for the Women's World Tag Team Championships. And they win. Those would be my women's tag. Dom Mysterio will, with him and Liv joining me as a faction, as a pair, as a couple, they join me. Dom, buddy, you made the right decision. You don't got to defend your IC title. Right? You're good. Right? And then Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed would be my tag champions. Right? And we would just have this ultimate faction. And you would think it's just on Raw, right? And then the next night on NXT, I start the show. And I come out and I said, y'all thought you had enough of me on Raw. Well, I run all three brands. And the same thing's going to happen tonight. Right? Now, we have a current situation in NXT right now where there's a vacant champion. And Ava had just announced, she just announced last Tuesday, qualifiers for a ladder match. And I come out, and this is exactly what I would do. I would say, we're not doing that. Ava thought she knew what was best for business, but she just doesn't. In fact, what's best for business is Ricky Saints. And he made a right decision. And he's now the new NXT champion. No open challenge for that one. He's the NXT champion, right? And then I go backstage, and Ethan Page is waiting in the office. What do I got to do? I'm not defending this. I'm the greatest North American. Ethan, buddy, I like you a lot. Join me. I'll protect you. He joins me. We do business. He doesn't have to defend. Right? Now, I still want champions, right, to happen. I still want championship matches to happen. So we then have a tag team championship match, open challenge. Dark State comes out, and they're challenged by OTM. And Dark State's sort of like the like they're not heel nor babyface. They sort of just there for justice, right? That's sort of what we're under the impression of. Well, unfortunately, I don't want that, and but I do want OTM, and they're on my side. And so OTM, they're just there to dominate. And when you have me as the EVP, I can make things happen. And OTM is now your tag team champions. And Jasper Troy comes out and he defends the men's speed championship. And you could put any given babyface in the match against him. It doesn't matter because he has also joined my side. And he wins the speed championship. And then we come out and Fallon Henley has to defend the women's speed championship, and she comes out and JC Jane's there, and commentary makes a big deal that Lainey Reed isn't. Where's Lainey? And the entire night it's the whole where's Lainey? Where's Lainey? Where's she at? Well, Lainey Reed has turned on them, and she has joined my faction, and Lainey Reed is now your women's speed champion. And then Izzy Dame, we see she comes to me and says, I want to join you. And I said, sounds like business. I said, what about Sean and Nico? She says, what about him? And I said, I like the way you talk. So Izzy Dame's part of it, so she doesn't have to defend. And then we get JC Jane in the main event having to defend her championship. And, well, Blake Monroe, she joins me. And she's now, right, so we have like this giant faction. And then Friday Night SmackDown comes on. And there again, I start the show again. And I have my entire Raw and SmackDown factions with me. And I announced the same thing will happen on SmackDown, starting with the Women's United States Championship, where Julia will defend the title against the woman that just joined the faction, Lash Legend. And Lash Legend becomes your women's U.S. title. And then we have a backstage segment where Carmelo Hayes is in the office talking about the U.S. title and how he doesn't want to defend it. And I say Melo. As I'm talking to Melo, Trick interrupts. And I say, Melo, do me a favor here, man. Vacate the U.S. Championship. Because I have an idea. Let's get the Trick Mello gang back together. And if you vacate the U.S. title, you and Trick can have the Tag Team Championship Open Challenge against the Wyatt Six. And I'll make sure you win the title. And I make it happen. Trick Mello gang wins the tag titles. Jade Cargill comes to me. What do I got to do? I'll join you. Okay, Jade, you're on the team now. She remains women's champion. Then we get to the main event, and Drew McIntyre just won at the time, let's just say it's Drew. Drew McIntyre's champion, right? So he comes down to the ring, and he cuts a promo and he says, I'm not joining this faction no matter what this guy offers me. He could throw whoever he wants at me. I'm not scared of him. Well, then the lights go off. They come back on and I'm standing on the stage and I say, Drew, you made an awful decision. You could have joined me and you could have dominated and had a year of the best year of your whole life. But you decided you wanted to defy that. You wanted to go on your own, and that's fine, because I don't exactly need you, Drew, because I got this guy. Lights go off again, and it's Obafemi. Obafemi joins the faction. He comes out. He gets to the ring. I said, he's halfway down the ramp, and I say, oh, by the way, Drew, just because you defied me and I have all the power in the world to do what I want to do, this is a no DQ match. And actually, ref, ring the bell. So Oba's halfway down the ramp, and Drew's in the ring, and the ref rings the bell, and as soon as the ref rings the bell, all the men of my faction come out and jump Drew McIntyre. Oba gets to the ring. 1, 2, 3. Obafemi, the new Universal Champion. And I have every title in my grip. And so what's the year storyline going to be? Well, it's obvious. We got to find a bunch of superheroes who can defeat the super villain, led by, and this is how you get Triple H back in the good graces, Triple H, who we can throw in as this is not what I signed you for. You're overstepping your bounds, and I will defeat you. Right? I'll take back control of the company, right? Can get Triple H back in the good graces, and we'll book it right, and we can have like a final send-off event, at the end of the year, where Triple H's team, right, beats my team, and I have to leave, right? And that's just the way that, right? But that's how I'll book it, right? Very interesting, right? All right, next question. You must explain wrestling to someone who hates it. What match do you show them? Honestly, it really depends on what I'm trying to explain. Like, am I showing drama? Am I showing just pure technical ability? If I had to show them one wrestling match, I probably would show a combined 2 matches. It would be Hogan versus Iron Sheik, 1984, where Hulkamania starts. And then I would show him Hogan versus Rock at WrestleMania. Because I think from a pure atmosphere of this is what wrestling is supposed to be. It's supposed to be dramatic. And then thirdly, so I would show them a trio of matches. Then I would show them Daniel Bryan. It wouldn't necessarily be a match. I would have to show them the whole story of Daniel Bryan versus Triple H to end up at WrestleMania 30, right? Because I think in my lifetime, that's probably the most satisfying story I've ever seen from beginning to end. But I don't necessarily know. Like, it really just depends on what I'm showing them about wrestling. Because I'll just be honest with you, I might be the person that hates wrestling. I'm just going to be honest. Like, because what we now define as modern wrestling, I'm not the biggest fan of them. I want more stories, bro. I want more gimmicks. I want more characters. But there's a question that I want to save that for at the end. So I'm not going to go on that rant yet. Would you change the result of the 2008 Super Bowl? That's when we lost to the Giants. But in exchange, it can't be an undefeated run. The answer to this is absolutely I would in a heartbeat. If it meant another Super Bowl, give up undefeated. I don't think undefeated really means much of anything. So yes, 100% I would take a Super Bowl. I think B Master asked us if you could bring back any promotion that has died, what would it be? I think just because I'm a Carolina boy, and I think there's a lot of name recognition with some of the fans that haven't come back to wrestling yet, I would do Jim Crockett Promotions. I would want their permission for the Crockett family permission to bring it back. But definitely I would consider, like I think having a Jim Crockett Promotions comeback would be very interesting. And you know, maybe, especially if I run like an 80s style wrestling show where it's sort of slow matches that don't have a lot of flippies and spots in it, but then mix it with my idea of what wrestling should be, which is, you know, a lot of storytelling, a lot of gimmicks, right? And what I mean by that is, you know, someone like Trick Williams, how many times have you been told, I'm Trick Williams, I played on the Philadelphia Eagles? Well, no, you didn't. Trick Williams didn't play on the Eagles. Matrick, whatever your real last name is, played on the Eagles, right? I think that ruins the character because, right, there was just something about growing up and thinking that Undertaker and Kane were brothers, right? And having that suspense of belief. In modern wrestling, the fans today wanted to be more soap opera, like, well, not even soap opera, but like reality TV show, right? Where they're obviously playing an extension of themselves, like an overhyped version of themselves. Like, we know that the Kardashians aren't as, probably aren't what they are on the TV show, right? It's turned up to 10, choreographed to make it look like dramatic. And that's what wrestling feels like now. And I hate reality television. I really do, right? I want characters. I want gimmicks. I want smart storytelling. That's what makes a good program. And so that's what I would do. I would bring back like Jim Crockett Promotions with an 80s style presentation, but with a lot of gimmicks. And I don't care about who you are as a real person. I don't want you to be you turned up to 11. I want you to be a character that entertains the fans, right? So that's right. And then the last question, Kara asked me to react to her hot take. And her hot take is this: Kit Wilson himself is not over. His entrance, his music, his Tron is. However, after a while, the hype will go away and will become flavor of the month. So initial thoughts. I agree and disagree with two different parts of this take, right? So there's essentially two sentences in this take. You have Kit Wilson isn't over, but his music, entrance, and Tron is over. That's the first sentence. And then you have, after a while, the hype will fade away and it will become flavor of the month. That's a second sentence. The first sentence, that Kit Wilson isn't over, I disagree with. In that, while I will agree that it's his music, his entrance, and his Tron that is over, to me, isn't that the definition of being over? To me, it's not that he's special, but it's that, to me, being over is having part of your character able to generate a fan reaction. And to me, that's over. Kit Wilson is over because of the music, because of the entrance, because he's able to have the fans do the arm movements on Kit Wilson, right? And chant and cheer and you know, he's got the I forgot the chant, something about toxic or something like that, right? Toxic masculinity or man up or whatever the chant is that people cheer for him, right? I think he's over right? So, like, generally, like, I think this, again, comes back to what I was just saying, that a lot of people want characters that are the person, like, I genuinely want clarification. What do you define over as? Because to me, you just described something that is the formula for getting over. Having music, having a presentation, and then being able to perform it in a way that the fans can buy it. And I think the fans have bought into it. So to me, that means he's over. Is he the greatest wrestler in the world? No, but neither was The Rock or Stone Cold, right? What did people react to Stone Cold for? It was the music. It was, right? It was the presence of Stone Cold. Whenever the glass hit, you got to shatter, right? That's what got Austin over, right? Now, was Austin better at promos than Kit Wilson? Probably, right? But, like, Daniel Bryan, I'll use as an example, right? When I started watching wrestling again in 2014, I didn't like Daniel Bryan because he was a technical master. I liked Daniel Bryan because of his presentation and the story. The story got him. Daniel Bryan didn't get himself over. The story got himself over. The booking got himself over. The presentation, the music, the yes chant, the storyline, the cheering for the good guy, right? That's what got Daniel Bryan over. But then we get to your second sentence. After a while, the hype will go away and this will become a flavor of the month. This is where I will agree with the take. Because they're running the same formula they ran with Jey Uso. Let's give you a chant. Let's give you some hype music. And we'll push you just a little bit. Give you a little bit of decent booking. 100% agree this is flavor of the month situation. But I ultimately think this is just a holdover until Elton Prince is healthy again. And they become a tag team again. I don't know if they knew how big this was, but I also think they have to keep Kit Wilson somewhat relevant. So when Elton Prince shows back up, Pretty Deadly still feels kind of important. Right? So that's where I'm with that. So she gave her hot take. Now I'm about to end the show with a hot take heat check. And so my hot take this week, I've kind of already said it, but I will say it again. Josh Allen, quarterback of the Buffalo Bills, is highly, I'm convinced in this now, highly overrated for how the media talks about him. There is no accolades that Josh Allen has that gives him the rating that in the protection in the media that he somehow has gotten. He hasn't earned it. And for that only, Josh Allen is overrated. Well, that is this week's episode of the Slapping Meat Community Show. Thank you all for listening. I'm WETOODEEP, your host. Until next week, I will see you at the same place. I would like to just gently remind you, like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're listening on audio. 5 stars preferably if you enjoy the product. Let us know why you enjoy it. And if you are listening on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment, get us in the algorithm. Until then, I will see you next week here at the same place as always, right here on the Slapping Meat Community Show.
So hit that subscribe, come along for the ride, whether it's NXT or NFL time. Going in the ropes and fourth and deep, Slapping Meat Community every Tuesday. Help the community out, every Tuesday.